On today's American Football Stories episode, we'll look ahead to this weekend's games and give our gambling advice for select college games and each Week 3 NFL game. American Football Stories is brought to you by CoachPaint. CoachPaint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with CoachPaint today.
What time is it?
Game time!
It's gonna be special. They gonna talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby.
Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Us against the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to American Football Stories, brought to you by CoachPaint. Today is September 23rd, 2020. I'm Nick Knudsen. I'm joined by Robert Parker III. You ready to go tonight, Rob?
How's it going, Nick? Ready to rock and roll?
All right, let's do it. Let's first jump into the college football schedule. We will go down each game in order on the college football schedule, give you the time, give you the network, and we'll start with UAB in South Alabama. We're only going to pick a handful of games. We're not going to pick every single game. We got to get through this in a reasonable amount of time, right, Rob?
That's right, Nick. We don't want to go to our 3-hour, 4-hour period.
Yeah. We'll try to keep it somewhat short. All right, Thursday, September 24th. That's tomorrow night. UAB at South Alabama, 7:30 ESPN. Friday, Middle Tennessee State travels to San Antonio to play UTSA, 8 p.m. CBS Sports Network on that was Friday, September 25th. Saturday, kicking off at noon. Big noon kickoffs back on Fox, Robert. You got Kansas State going to number 3 Oklahoma. K-State comes into this one after serving as one of the Big 12 victims to a Sun Belt team a couple weeks ago. Time to unleash Spencer Rattler on the Big 12 for the Sooners, Rob. The Wildcats are 2-2 in their last 4 trips to Norman, but I don't see much going their way this week. I was pretty disappointed with that result against Arkansas State. You got Kansas State coming in. They're going to be 28-point underdogs in this game, and the over-unders at 61. I'll take the Sooners at minus 28. I think Oklahoma clears 50. But am I being too harsh on K-State, Rob?
I don't think so. I mean, once again, they go down to a Sun Belt opponent. I know we had a lot of jokes on social media talking about the Sun Belt should join the Power 5. But once again, it's time for Spencer Rattler to get unleashed on the Big 12. And I like Oklahoma in this one, and I like them big. And I really like that over. So you might see me with the parlay, Oklahoma with the points and the over, Nick.
That's a good point. I think I'm actually going to go parlay on that too, because I think Oklahoma just doesn't stop scoring. I think this is going to be an ugly game in Norman. So we both like the parlay with OU was 28 and the over. All right. And if I sound like I'm stopping to write something down real quick, I'm recording all of our picks, man. There we go. All right. Next up, the number 5 Florida Gators travel to Oxford to face Ole Miss. Let me repeat that. The preseason 5 Florida Gators, Rob. The Gators, I don't want to do their back thing, but it's nice to have expectations, isn't it, heading into a season?
It is. And once you're, the Florida being mentioned in the same breath as the Georgias, the Alabamas, and the Clemsons, that's saying a lot for not only that program, but for Dan Mullen as well.
Yeah, we are kicking off year 3 of the Dan Mullen era in Gainesville. This is the best offense that he's had, in my opinion. I know last year was pretty good, had some good weapons, and, they're losing the likes of Van Jefferson. You got a couple other key seniors leaving, Freddie Swain, LaMichael Pirine left for the NFL draft. But I'm anxious to see 5-star transfers. You got one from Penn State, wide receiver Justin Shorter, and UGA defensive end Brenton Cox in action. I mean, he's been tearing it up in camp. They gave him that number 1 jersey down in Gainesville, which they only give to their top playmakers. Ole Miss, on the other hand, they're also coming to the game some offensive firepower. They're returning QBs Matt Corral, who at one point was a Florida Gator commit, and John Rice Plumlee, who had a really stellar game. Everyone remembers the game against LSU where he was just running all over the place. But we don't know who's starting just yet. Lane Kiffin, we're starting the Lane Kiffin era in Oxford. He's keeping it awfully quiet. He's got the aura on the depth chart. But from what I'm kind of gauging, I think Corral starts the game, and I think that he'll end up riding the hot hand. I think we're going to see both of these. Jerry and Ely returns at running back, along with Elijah Moore at wide receiver. Both of them big play guys. Most of you will remember Elijah Moore from the dog peeing incident in last year's Egg Bowl. I think the Rebs could put up some points in this one, but we got Florida going in there at -14, -570 on the money line, and the over-unders at 57. I think you'll be sweating out that first half a bit if you're Florida, but the Gators' talent wears down the Rebels in the second half, and Florida pulls away. So safe bet would be just to take the over at 57, but I'm going to parlay the Gators -14 with the over.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the over, Nick. I definitely like that over, especially with whichever quarterback gets to start for Lane Kiffin. I think Cal Trask is going to throw it around the yard, and I think one of the 5-star transfer that we forgot to mention is Lorenzo Lingard, transferring from Miami. So I'm very excited to see how he feels in the backfield. But once again, I think it's just going to be too much Cal Trask, and I think Todd Grantham defense just makes some plays at the end that just keeps the Gators, winning the game. So I do like the over. Don't really like to spread too much. I think this one might be a little bit closer than what people think.
All right, so you're sticking at the over 57. All right, number 7, Notre Dame was supposed to travel to Wake Forest for ACC action this week. That was set to be a noon kickoff, but it's been rescheduled after 7 Irish players tested positive for COVID. It's going to be played on December 12th. So that game's been rescheduled. We were going to dive into that, but rescheduled for December 12th. Kentucky goes to Auburn at noon on SEC. I really wish this game was in a different time slot because I would really love to dive into this one. I love what Mark Stoops has done at Kentucky. They put a wide receiver at quarterback after Terry Wilson went down with an injury last year, and they rode Lynn Bowden to 8 wins, including a bowl victory over Virginia Tech. That's not a bad follow-up to a 10-win season that featured a New Year's Bowl win over Penn State. Wilson's back after last season's knee injury. QB Bo Nix for Auburn returns for a sophomore season after wins against Oregon and Bama, despite some up and downs. Oregon and Bama, 2 impressive wins on their resume. I think Auburn's a better team in this one, but they tend to keep things interesting. And I think it's just a bad matchup for week 1. Like I was hoping Florida would not draw Kentucky in week 1 just from a fan's perspective because those guys are tough and they always bring it, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We still don't know the status of Auburn quarterback transfer Joey Gatewood, but he might be cleared to play Saturday for Kentucky. So that's something to kind of follow throughout the rest of the week. Auburn is a 7.5-point favorite in this one. -300 in the money line. Over-under set at 49.5. Give me Kentucky in the points at +7.5. I think Auburn wins, but I think it's close.
Yeah, Nick. I definitely like Auburn in this one, and give me Auburn with the points. So I'm gonna go opposite of you. Once again, this is year 2 under Bo Nix, and once again, it seems like every year we come into, Gus Malzahn is always on the hot seat. And I tell you what, if he loses to a Kentucky team in week 1 of the SEC championship, I think of the SEC coming back, I think you're gonna hear those hot seat talks starting to spark up again. But I just think Bo Nix and this offense is just gonna bode well for Auburn all game long, and I think they're going to get the win and cover the spread.
No faith in that Kentucky defense, huh?
Yeah, I mean, once again, Kentucky was definitely the Cinderella story last year, especially with Terry Wilson going down, just like you mentioned earlier, and putting Lynn Bowden Jr. at quarterback, who won the Paul Horney Award for the best playmaker in college football. But I just think Auburn just has too much talent, and Kentucky is getting there under Mark Stoops, but they still haven't, gotten there consistently enough where they can play with the big boys week in and week out.
All right, let's move on. We got UCF traveling to East Carolina, 12 p.m. ESPN. Georgia Southern at Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns survived a close one last week. Another noon kickoff on ESPN2. The ACC network at noon. Louisville travels to Pittsburgh. The Cardinals, I'd call it a shellacking last week at the hands of Miami. It was kind of a beatdown. They tried to keep up. They tried to rally, but they kept giving up big plays. Pitt's been steady so far this season. They took care of business against Syracuse last week. But Pat Narduzzi's bunch, they really haven't seen an offense with the likes of Malik Cunningham at quarterback. Pittsburgh is a 3-point favorite, minus 145 on the money line. Over-unders at 55.5. I expect the Cards to clean up the mistakes this week. They're facing a less explosive offense. I like this Pitt team. I think they'll be pesky in the ACC, but I like Louisville's offense a little better in this one. I'll take the Cardinals and the points at +3.
Yeah, definitely. Give me the points with Louisville. I think they bounced back from Miami. I think that game was a little bit closer than what the score said at the end of the game. Once again, Cunningham and you have Tutu Atwell, who really, can press on the defense and take the top off with his speed. And I just think, Louisville is a little bit more athletic than Pitt. And I think they bounced back after that, horrible loss to Miami where they just couldn't stop the big play. So give me Louisville with the points in this one, Nick.
Yeah, and I like that Pat Narduzzi defense too. I think this will be a tight game, but it's only covering a field goal. I think Louisville can do it. I think they can do it. All right, Georgia Tech travels to Syracuse at 12 p.m. on ESPN3. Just a side note, we're not going to get into this one. But, Rob, if Georgia Tech's really going to take the step we think they can take this year, they got to win this one, right?
They have to. I mean, it definitely looks like they have the talent to do it. I mean, it might be young talent, but most of the time, some young talent can get the job done. Jeff Sims at the quarterback position, he's playing really, really well. But this is a game that Georgia Tech has to win if they want to move forward in the ACC and be a contender, Nick.
It'll be interesting to see how they do. When I think most people would agree Georgia Tech should win this game. It'll be interesting to see how they do with some expectations put on them. All right, Georgia State travels to Charlotte. Your alumni of Charlotte, Rob. Your 49ers will host the Panthers at 12 p.m. on ESPNU. That could be an interesting game. Last week, we probably would have watched it. Campbell at Appalachian State. The Camels playing at 12 p.m. on ESPN+. All right, FIU traveling to Liberty at 1 p.m. ESPN3. Iowa State at TCU, 1:30, FS1. Tulane at Southern Mississippi, 2:30 p.m. Hey, man, I'm going to kind of miss watching Tulane this week. I'm definitely not going to watch that Tulane Southern Miss game. I'm very likely not to watch that game. But Tulane, they've been kind of fun the last 2 weeks. But we got the big boys back playing football, Rob. Mississippi State goes into Baton Rouge to face the defending national champion LSU Tigers, 3:30 CBS. I can almost hear the CBS song playing right now. I'm so pumped for this game, Rob. Mike Leach is in the SEC.
Yeah, we're gonna see an explosive Mike Leach offense in the SEC, and I know that might not go together when we talk about SEC football, but Mike Leach is definitely gonna spread it around and throw the ball around. And unfortunately, I don't think Mike Leach get his first win against LSU because once again, the LSU lost so many superstars on that national championship team, but I think you have Miles Brennan is a good talent at the quarterback position, and that receiving corps is loaded with the opt-out of Jamar Chase. So give me LSU in this one. I think Mississippi State keep it close early, but I think that LSU talent just, overtakes Mississippi State at the end of the game, and they get the win.
So I cannot wait for Leach to settle in at Mississippi State, but I think we're going to see something similar to his last stop at Washington State. The Cougars took 3 years to put up a winning record. I'm not sure they'll give him that patient level of patience in Starkville, but I think we'll see him get to a bowl game when the schedule returns back to normal next year, and he'll be able to pick up a couple of cheap non-conference wins and just manage to win a few SEC games. I think they'll be patient with – I hope they'll be patient enough to let them develop and morph this program into a tough out for the LSUs of the world on an annual basis. because if you give him the time, he will. I wish they had more time to work on their offense. It's a new team, new quarterback. Don't like that recipe heading into LSU. In addition to losing Burrow, Clavon Chason, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Queen, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the Tigers, they lose Blitnikoff winner, like you mentioned, Jamar Chase, free safety Kerry Vincent, big nose tackle Tyler Shelvin, all opting out due to COVID. Heard Shelvin's looking to come back, but you also were hit with losses on the coaching staff. Dave Aranda leaves to replace Matt Baylor at Baylor, or Matt Rule at Baylor, and they bring in Bo Pelini, former LSU defensive coordinator who had left LSU for the Nebraska job about 10 years ago, back into Baton Rouge. So Pelini will be calling plays. Dude, could you imagine being in the same room when Pelini and Ogeron are freaking out at the same time?
Yeah, that's probably a very, very scary sight, Nick.
Man,
But I just want to get back and talk about the players that LSU lost from that national championship team, whether it's through opt out or whether it's through the draft. One player that they didn't lose is, number one cornerback Derek Stingley, and I think Mike Leach is actually going to test him. First game of the season, we know Mike Leach likes to spread the ball around and go air raid. So we're going to see if Derek Stingley is able to hold up. Going against a Mike Leach offense. I think that's one of the matchups that I'm really interested to see.
It'll definitely be a good test for the LSU secondary right out the gates. You got Scott Linehan coming in on the offensive side to fill the Joe Brady role. Steven Springer is still there calling plays like he was last year. Interesting enough, Joe Brady left to go join Matt Rule and Baylor, so there's two Matt Rule connections with the departures of Brady and Aranda. I thought that was interesting. But, Ogeron, he's a master recruiter. Like, there's no doubt LSU is going to be stacked with talent for years to come. But this year, even without a full offseason, it would have been tough to follow up on that 2019 when everything just went perfect. He's an all-time promoter, but Coach O is. But I think we're going to have to take his, optimism with a grain of salt this year. There's just an abundance of unproven guys. I'm sure Miles Brennan will be fine, but there's no shot he's Joe Burrow, right? I mean, giving LSU a 16.5-point spread here, I could see a scenario where they come out and they just dust Mississippi State. But, yeah, I do see Mississippi State as retooling. 16.5-point spread probably could be okay taking LSU on that. But I'm going to hedge my bet on this one a little bit. There's a lot of unproven parts of both of these teams. I'm going to just take the over at 57.5 this one and expect some fireworks on both sides of the ball. LSU on the money line minus 800 as well.
Yeah, I'm confident in taking LSU to cover, Nick. I think once again this is Mike Leach first stop in the SEC as a head coach, and I think Ed O and that staff that he put together, I think they're prepared for this. I think once again LSU is in that same mode as Clemson, Ohio State. They really don't rebuild, they reload, and I think it's just a talent gap. Right now between Mike Leach and Ed O in both of the universities. And I think, LSU edged them out. Miles Brennan might struggle a little bit, but once again, he has the better of the talent. So I think that talent overcomes and works in his favor. So Give me LSU with the points, Nick.
Despite all your losing, LSU is still a wildly talented team. They just might not be national championship talented this year. So, yeah, I agree with you on the talent edge. I'm just nervous about the unproven talent. So, I don't hate your pick there. I don't hate the pick, but I'm going to just stick with the over because I think there are going to be a lot of points scored. I could see this being something like a 42-21 or something like that. Let's go to the Big 12. We got the Longhorns, hook 'em, traveling out to Lubbock to play the Texas Tech Red Raiders, 3:30, Fox. The Longhorns rolled in their opener. No problem beating UTEP. Texas Tech struggled. They got by FCS Houston Baptist, but barely. I like Mike Wells out of Texas Tech. I think the Red Raiders are building back up. I just don't think they're quite where they want to be yet. So I'll take Hook'em in this one. I'll lay the 18 points. And I think the Horns are ready to take off this year and compete with Oklahoma for the conference title. Minus 900 on the money line. Over-unders at 70.5 on this one.
Yeah, I really like that under in this game, Nick. I think Texas Tech is an air raid type style offense, they like to work out of the shotgun and spread the ball around. But once again, that Texas Longhorn defense has come a long way under Tom Herman. I know, Texas have lost some weapons on the offense side of the ball, and Colin Johnson, who's actually playing really good in Jacksonville right now, and David Durinary out in Baltimore. But once again, I think Sam Ehlinger is going to struggle to find his weapons early on the outside. So I think they're going to, kind of ground and pound and keep the clock running. So I think that's going to stop the game from Texas Tech getting on the field. So I like the under in this one.
All right, let's move on to Cincinnati, also at 3:30, hosting the Army Black Knights. Army at Cincinnati, I think this is the clear non-SEC game of the week. Army has rolled in their first two games, 42-0 over Middle Tennessee State, 37-7 over Louisiana Monroe. Cincinnati dusted Austin Peay last week to open. Is Cincinnati who they think they can be this season, which is contending for the American to beat UCF, contending for an American athletic title? They should win this one at home. This is a take care of business game. But I think it's going to be close. Army's more than capable of pulling off an upset here. I was stunned when I saw the line, Rob. Cincinnati minus 13.5, minus 600 on the money line, over-unders at 45. West Point, plus 13.5. I'm taking Army all the way on this. It's not even close. I was expecting a 3 to 5 point spread here. And I'm just going to lay off the total, but am I crazy to think this game likely comes down to a field goal?
I don't think you're crazy. I do think Army keeps it close, but once again, I think Cincinnati they can win in multiple ways. They can run the ball and they can spread you out and throw the ball. And I think Army is kind of they're one dimensional on the offense side of the ball, even though they've been putting up a lot of points in the first couple of games. But once again, I really like Cincinnati in this one. But you're not crazy in the fact that you think Army is going to keep it close, Nick.
Yeah, I think that ground game is just tough to prepare for. And if they're going right, which it looks like they are the first couple weeks of the season, they are not a team you want to see really at any point in the schedule, but definitely early on in your second game. So I think Cincinnati struggles a little bit in this one. I would think they get the win, but I think it's going to be close. West Virginia travels to Oklahoma State, 3:30 ABC in the Big 12. The Mountaineers crushed Eastern Kentucky last weekend. Okie State, they rode the struggle bus, Rob. They barely beat Tulsa. I think most people wrote off this West Virginia program last year after a couple early season blowouts. But if you dig into their season, they really got better as the season progressed here. Oklahoma State is a 7-point favorite, minus 250 on the money line. Over under is at 51.5. Maybe I shouldn't hold grudges, but I thought the Cowboys would easily cover against Tulsa and lost a few bucks on that minus 22.5 money line. But instead, they trailed deep into the second half before winning a sloppy one. Yeah, was it a wake-up call for Gundy's guys or just a sign of things to come? Okie State, I don't trust them. Give me West Virginia plus 7 in this one.
Yeah, Nick, I don't think you're crazy for not trusting them. Once again, we know Oklahoma State struggled in their first game against Tulsa, but I think the key to this game is Spencer Sanders going down. Once again, you see the backup quarterback and the fact that teams stacked the box against Chuba Hubbard, and they pretty much let the quarterback beat him through the air. So I can see West Virginia, playing that same style of football, stacking the box and saying, hey, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us through the air. And I think West Virginia keeps it close and cover the 7.5, Nick.
I just take Oklahoma State's offense being good for granted because Gundy has had the ability to kind of just plug and chug at quarterback for years. So I like that didn't even register with me till you just said that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I think with the thing that Spencer Sanders brings to Gundy's offense that he normally didn't have is the element of the run from the quarterback position. Normally those Gundy guys, they're a little bit mobile, but for the most part they're big guys that could just chuck the ball down the field. And I think that was one element that kind of hurt him that Tulsa game when Spencer Sanders went down. I know Oklahoma State is sporting the throwback uniforms for their Big 12 conference opener against West Virginia this Saturday. But once again, Nick, I really like West Virginia with the points.
Okay. So all that pep talk on Oklahoma State, you're still taking West Virginia with the points.
Yeah, I know. But, I'm a man. I'm 40, so I can't go with Gundy, especially from that showing against Tulsa. And the quarterback position is the main key for me when it comes to that Oklahoma State offense. So once again, that's some of the reasons why I really like West Virginia to cover with the points.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of which, Army Cincinnati. What'd you end up taking in that game again? I didn't write it down.
I took Cincinnati. I think you took Army in that one.
You took Cincinnati to cover the 13? Or just
money line, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati money line. Okay. All right. Cincinnati money line. All right. Let's move on. 3:30. We're still in the 3:30 hour. Last two games. UTEP at UL Monroe on ESPNU. Last 3:30 time slot. That Tulsa team we talked about. They looked aggressive. Those corners. I was really impressed with that secondary. Tulsa, by the way. At Arkansas State. Hey, man, two teams that just one team beat a Big 12 team. The other team gave them a lot of problems. That should be a fun matchup. 3:30 ESPN2. 4 p.m. on the SEC Network. Georgia makes its debut against Arkansas. I should say Sam Pittman and Felipe Franks make their Arkansas debut, which is good news for Arkansas fans. But I think that's about all the good news they're getting on Saturday. I don't think anything else really goes well in this one for them. I don't care who the Georgia quarterback is. 26.5, it's an awful lot to give up on a road. The Bulldogs are favored by 26.5 here. They're minus 3,200 on the money line, over under 52.5. But I'm willing to go dogs in the points on this one. Give me Georgia minus 26.5. I think this is not the way you want to start your career if you're Pittman or Franks. But I just think the talent at Georgia completely overwhelms Arkansas.
Yeah, I think so, Nick. But one thing that I'm going to hang my hat on is the Georgia Bulldogs offseason. Once again, we had Jamie Newman, the transfer grad that came in from Wake, that was considered the likely starter, and he opted out of the season. And then JT Daniels transfer over. Right now is probably looking like DeJuan Mathis is going to start, and he doesn't really have a lot of starts under his belt. So once again, I think Arkansas can stick around, and give me Arkansas with the points. I know Felipe Franks is a SEC quarterback. He hasn't played the part out of Gainesville, but I think he has enough veteran leadership to kind of get the guys riled up to kind of, cover for Arkansas. So give me Arkansas with the points in this one.
Nothing would please me more than to be wrong on this. I just don't think it's going to be close. Of course, Sam Pittman, former Georgia Bulldog offensive line coach, was replaced in Athens by fired Ole Miss coach Matt Luke. So the cycle goes round in the SEC, but good for Sam Pittman. I do like Sam Pittman at Arkansas. I don't think they'll be patient enough with him, but if they just let him build, I think that guy can recruit. I think they're going to have a good team out there in a couple of years that could be getting back to bowl games. All right, 4 p.m. ACC Network, Duke at Virginia. Texas State travels to Boston College for the 6 p.m. time slot on ESPN3. Also at 6 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. Florida Atlantic hosts USF. The Bulls, fresh off a beatdown at Notre Dame, get a stay in state. This time travel down to Boca. We're not picking this one, Rob. I just want to make a note that ex-USF head coaches Willie Taggart and Jim Leavitt are on the opposite sidelines for FAU. Thought that was an interesting note. Of course, Willie Taggart, Jim Leavitt, both coach at FSU as last year, and obviously have since departed. But good hire for FAU. I like Willie Taggart down there. I think he'll keep that thing rolling at FAU. Alabama at Missouri, 7 p.m. ESPN. Poor Eli Drinkwitz, Rob. Welcome to the SEC, and roll Tide. On behalf of the SEC, roll Tide. I think Mac Jones is going to just shred Missouri in this one. But really, my question is, do we see Missouri scoring much in this one? Because Vegas has Alabama as a 27.5-point favorite, minus 3,000 on the money line, over-unders at 56. I want to know what you think of the Missouri offense, and do you think they're going to come out and score some points?
Yeah, I don't have any hope in Missouri to come out and score points in this one, Nick. I think this is an angry Alabama team, and we know what an angry Alabama team and an angry Nick Saban can do. And I think the angry Alabama tour starts with Missouri. If you ask me, I think Alabama rolls in this one. Mac Jones is going to come out, throwing the ball around. He has some studs out there on the outside, and Najee Harris in the backfield. And once again, that defense. So I think Alabama rolls in this one. Give me Alabama with the points.
Yeah, this is going to be one where it's 28-0 by halftime. This is not going to be close. So we're taking Alabama and the points. Poor Eli. Tough SEC opener. All right. North Texas at Houston, 7 p.m. ESPN Plus. Houston Baptist at Louisiana Tech, 7 p.m. ESPN 3. Stephen F. Austin at SMU, 7 p.m. ESPN Plus. All right, we're only doing it because it's the SEC, Rob, and it's their first game. But Vanderbilt travels to Texas A&M. Another game with another huge point spread, but another huge mismatch here. Aggies are favored by 30.5. They're not even offering a money line. The over-under's at 46 here. I mean, I think the safe bet is just to take the over at 46. But I think the Aggies can cover this 30.5 here.
Yeah, I think you're right about Nick. But it depends on what Aggies team come out and what Kellen Mond comes out. Just like you said, the safe bet is probably going to be the over, and that's probably the only line that I would touch in this game. I'm not confident that what Aggies team is going to come out, especially the first game of the SEC schedule. So the safe bet is the over, and that's what I'm going to take for this game.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that too. 30.5, I think they could do it. It's just a little risk for my blood. Let's just put it that way. All right, Florida State, after an ugly opening loss against Georgia Tech, they traveled down to play Miami. Not used to seeing this the second game of the season. FSU, they don't have the offense to hang with the Hurricanes. It's pretty simple if you just look at it up front. I mean, the offensive line's really struggled against Georgia Tech. I think it's going to be even worse against Miami here. But what I'm curious to watch in this one is if there's going to be any level of disorganization without Mike Norvell on the sideline for the Seminoles. A week after losing to Georgia Tech in the home opener, the Noles coach tested positive for COVID-19. He's out for this game. And on the opposite side, so while the news has been terrible out of Tallahassee on all fronts, it's been great in Miami. Derek King's the real deal, it looks like. This game typically plays close. It's big rivalry, but I think this year's an exception to the rule. Miami scores early, buries FSU by halftime. Canes minus 11.5. I think they cover it. Minus 420 on the money line for Miami, and the over-unders at 54. I think the safest one here is to go Miami minus 11.5.
Yeah, Nick. Once again, this is a rivalry game. It might not seem like it, just like you mentioned. We don't see this matchup in week 2 of the season that much, if ever. But once again, just like you mentioned, De'Aaron King is just running and throwing the ball all the way around. And then we had the turnover chain come out, make an appearance last week with Al Blades and the interception that he got. So I see that turnover chain making a hefty appearance this week. So once again, give me Miami with the points in this one, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a wide right in this game, Nick.
It's not going to come down to any field goal. FSU, there's been a couple times where FSU's been up, Miami's down, Miami plays them close, and vice versa. Last year, I think it was last year, FSU played them pretty tight. If not last year, it was 2 years ago. But this is usually one where you throw out the records and you throw out the season, but it's hard to ignore that offensive line at Florida State. That's really what gives me no confidence in the Seminoles to cover that 11.5. So give me De'Aaron King putting up a bunch in this one. Even though I think the FSU does play good defense, by the way. I think they will play good defense, but I just don't think that offense is going to contribute much. And I think you could see something like a 24-6 or something like that in Miami. All right, Tennessee at South Carolina. Last SEC game, lots of preseason love for the Vols, but they're no strangers to preseason love. Can they actually live up to increasing expectations, Rob?
I mean, I would hope so, but once again, they took a hit, this week, losing, one of their best players on the offense side of the ball and tight end Austin Pope. I know he's not the downfield threat, from a receiving standpoint, but he's a great leader and he's a great big part of that run game that Tennessee has. But I think the other thing that you have to say is, hey, can Jeremy Pruitt get these guys ready to play a SEC game against Will Muschamp? Will Muschamp is going to have a feisty defense on his side of the ball, but once again, Will Muschamp lost one of his best offensive players to the draft, and Brian Edwards this past season. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. So I'm actually going to take the under on this one, Nick.
You're going to take the under at 43.5?
Yes.
The spread, by the way, is Tennessee is a 3.5-point favorite, minus 170 on the money line. Over under the total is at 43.5. Robert's taking the under at 43.5. I'm not touching anything score-wise because I think South Carolina, they got Mike Bobo coming in after a few years at Colorado State. He's calling the plays with Muschamp now. I think we're going to see a different look offense. I just don't know what to expect. I don't trust Tennessee. I don't trust South Carolina. I don't trust the points. But what I do think is Tennessee will find a way to walk out of there with a win. So whether it's a 1-point win, it's a shootout, a 1-point win, a low-scoring game, I think Tennessee gets a win. I'm going Volunteers money line in this one. All right, you got Kansas and Les Miles traveling to Baylor. Dave Aranda finally gets to play football, I think. Obviously, any of these games can be canceled at any time. 7:30 p.m. ESPNU. NC State finally found the field last week. Beat Wake Forest. They go up to Blacksburg. 8 p.m. ACC Network at Virginia Tech. Troy at BYU. 10:15 p.m. ESPN. BYU, of course, had to cancel their game with Army last week. That's it for the college football. We're going to move on to the NFL in a minute. But first, Rob, you got any final thoughts on the college football schedule this week?
Just super excited the SEC is coming back. I know the Big Ten is coming back as well, and that's what you need. I want to see an angry Alabama team. I want to see if Dan Mullen can get over the hump. I want to see the quarterback duel out at Georgia. So I'm just ready to see all of these guys gear up and get ready to play a season. Nick.
Yeah, it's great to have the SEC back. Once we get the Big Ten back, it'll kind of feel like the thing's complete. Would love to hear anything about the Pac-12, but not hearing anything. But just grateful that we're even getting to have a season. And so I'm super fired up, even though some of these matchups, like you were talking before the podcast with me about some of these spreads in week one with the SEC. Not the best matchups across the board, but you can find some storylines in each of them. So just glad to have football back. It'll be fun to watch. All right, let's move on to the NFL. All right, welcome to the NFL segment of the show. We're going to go game by game, give you our picks and thoughts for each game. Thursday, September 24th, the dreaded Jacksonville Thursday night game for you National fans, for all you non-Jaguars fans. Us Jaguars fans, we like to play on Thursday night. I'm just glad to see that they're playing someone other than the Tennessee Titans. But I can't tell you how many people bring up to me the mustard yellow uniforms on Thursday night, Rob.
Yeah, those things are pretty horrible if you ask me, Nick. But I'll tell you what, the Jacksonville Jaguars are definitely not playing horrible. They're actually playing pretty good. And I know we discussed this and we kind of, laughed about it and joked about, Jacksonville tanking. Maybe that was me more than you. But
it wasn't me at all. Stop including me in that conversation. I did not say that.
I definitely don't see Jacksonville tanking this year. They're actually playing awesome. The young guys are really sticking well. Like especially you got C.J. Henderson who pretty much single-handedly won them that game against the Colts
Yep.
week 1. And then you have James Robinson and Laviska Shenault pretty much on the offense side of the ball making big plays. So, and Gardner Minshew, how can you not mention this guy? And I know it was a special meme that came out. I think you might have sent it to me when they have it where it's like Gardner Minshew, like, who the hell is Trevor Lawrence? I thought that was very hilarious, and that's indicative of the season that he's having. So once again, I really like Jacksonville in this game. We know Ryan Fitzpatrick, has his ups and downs, but I really think Jacksonville has something special out there in Duval. So give me Jacksonville with the points, Nick.
All right, so Jacksonville is a 3-point favorite, -160 on the money line. Over-unders at 48. You're taking Jacksonville at -3. All right, let me go into it here, all right? Because I know I'm high on the Jags. The Jags are the team I grew up with. I am a Jags fan. However, Minshew goes 19-20 in week 1 versus Indy. Comes through clutch it for a win. Unexpected, big-time unexpected win. Week 2 at Tennessee, he goes 30-45 for 399 or 339. Nearly leads a huge upset. The young talent is clicking in Jacksonville. You mentioned a little bit of it. James Robinson, Laviska Shenault. But that being said, I think this is the type of team. They're young. They're going to have their up weeks. They're going to have their down weeks. And a short week after an emotional high, after a near upset on the road at a divisional rival, might have the arrow pointing down this week for the Jags. I think they definitely could beat Miami. They should. I think they are the better team. But hey, Miami played pretty tough against the Pats and the Bills. I wouldn't classify with them as seriously challenging for a win, but they definitely hung around in both those games. Both teams' defenses in this one are susceptible to giving up a few points, and you got a couple QBs that aren't afraid to sling it. I'm hoping to see a high-scoring game in this one. So my gut instinct as a Jaguars fan is to say do not trust the Jaguars. Even though the -3 looks mighty attractive, I'm going to simply go with the over at 48. Fitz and Gardner, they're going to sling it around. It's going to be a fun game to watch. But did you see them? Did you see them trade thoughts on facial hair too this week with Adam Schefter?
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious, Nick.
Yeah, so obviously for those who follow, Ryan Fitzpatrick has a massive beard. Looks like someone out of Game of Thrones. Minshew looks like someone out of Jacksonville, pretty much. He's got the nice, he's got the great mustache and everything. And Fitzpatrick just basically put out a quote: "The mustache versus the beard. I think the beard's cooler. Guys that grow mustaches, they tend to have patchy sides." And Gardner basically shot back with something along the lines of, I personally go to the mustache, but I think that I'll respect my elders, especially when the guy's much, much older than I am. So he just basically took a shot at Fitzpatrick's age, which I very much enjoyed. So I think this game's gonna be fun. These two are gonna be. I think these two are gonna be fired up, and I'm hoping to see a high scoring game in this one. So I'm gonna take the over of 48 right now. All right, we'll move on to the Sunday matchup. Chicago at Atlanta, 1 p.m. on Fox. The Falcons coming off a devastating loss to the Cowboys. They are 3.5-point favorites, -175. Over-under is at 47.5. Rob, we've seen the Bears kind of sneak out a couple victories against the Lions and the Giants weeks 1 and 2. Trubisky's doing just enough to get it done. The Falcons poured it on last week against Dallas. They somehow lost that game. We broke it down on our last podcast, but man, do you see Atlanta bouncing back in this one?
I think I do. I mean, I know the Bears are undefeated right now, but it seems like the books are not giving them the respect because they're coming in as a 3.5-point underdog. That line is moving depending on what book you're looking at. But I think, they're coming in as an underdog for a reason. You have to look at that. The Falcons on the offense side of the ball with Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, and Julio Jones, and even Todd Gurley. It seems like the offense is clicking on all cylinders, but for some reason the defense has just been playing ferocious. So I like the Falcons to bounce back in this one, Nick, and I really think the Bears are overachieving at this point, and the Bears really haven't put a total fourth quarter performance together. It's kind of been up and down. You see the comeback win in week one against the Lions, and then you kind of see an up and down performance with Chicago beating the Giants last week. So give me the Falcons with the points in this one.
Atlanta -3.5. Yeah, I'm gonna go the same. I was kind of joking with you on the show the other night. I feel like Trubisky's doing just enough to avoid the conversation. If the Bears can keep winning, people will avoid the conversation. But if they drop those two games against Detroit, which there's a drop ball in the end zone by DeAndre Swift, or the Giants, who had to play into the end zone for the win on the last play of the game, I think we're having conversations about Nick Foles already based on Trubisky's play. So I think that the conversation is going to start to get real this week, because I think the Falcons just have too much firepower for Chicago. I'll take Atlanta at -3.5 as well. Let's go up to Buffalo. The LA Rams going to the Bills. Is this possible Super Bowl preview, Rob? Or am I getting way too excited about this?
I think you're getting way too excited about this. But if you ask me, I think this is going to be a great game. I really can't get a beat on this game. Me personally, if I was have to, put some money on this one, I would kind of stay away from this game. But just for the fun of it, I really like the Rams. Jared Goff seems like he's the Jared Goff of old, and Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods on the outside is a dangerous pairing, and the emergence of Tyler Higbee at the tight end position. We've seen what he's been doing, but once again, the Rams are kind of banged up at the running back position, and that Bills defense is really, really good. But I just think Aaron Donald can make enough plays on Josh Allen for the Rams to come out with the win. But once again, if I was to put money, I would kind of stay away from this one, Nick. But just for the fun, give me the Rams with the points.
Well, you got two 2-0 teams in here, so you're taking the Rams at +2, by the way. So the Rams +2. They are the Bills are, so obviously the Bills are 2-point favorite. Bills are -130 on the money line. Rams are +110. The total is 47. I'm with you in that I do like the Rams in this game. I think the Bills are definitely a good team, and I think that they've proven it, but I think the Rams have kind of been there. I think the Bills are still learning how to win at a high level and winning with expectations. And this is a type of game that could test the Bills. Going out east, never easy. The Rams made it look pretty easy going to Philly last week, though. So I'm not going to knock them too much on that. I will take the Rams, and I'll go money line, just straight up on the Rams on this one, because I think that they got enough firepower on that offense to keep Buffalo chasing all day, and I've really liked what I've seen from Sean McVay and company in the first 2 weeks of the season. All right, let's move on to the Washington football team traveling to Cleveland to play the Browns, 1 p.m. on Fox. Cleveland is a 7-point favorite, -330 on the money line. The total is at 44. Rob, you got two first-round quarterbacks in this. What are your takes on Dwayne Haskins in year 2 and Baker Mayfield in year 3 so far?
From year 2 of Dwayne Haskins, Nick, it seems like he's improved, at least from the pocket. It seems like, he's not staring down receivers, and he's kind of throwing the ball around. But Baker Mayfield, he looked really, really well last week. But that's what the Cleveland Browns is going to have to do. I think they have to run the ball with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and then, run play action off of that and let Baker Mayfield, hit Odell and Jarvis Landry down the field. But one thing they have to do that I haven't seen them really do this year so far is get Austin Hooper involved in the offense, whether that's through tight end screens or little short pop passes across the middle. But this is probably one game that of the whole entire NFL slate this weekend that I really like. So I really like the Browns in this one with the point.
Cleveland at -7.
I know that sounds weird that I really like the Cleveland Browns to win a game, but
you did not last week.
I did not last week, but I just think they found something last week. With Baker getting comfortable in the offense, I just think they found something. They kind of hit their strides. You see Odell, laughing and dancing, and a happy Odell is a good Odell. So I'm really gonna ride with the Browns on this one.
I like your thoughts on it. I do like this Browns team. I think they're going to be a wild card contender. I don't think Washington's particularly strong. I think they had a fluky comeback against Philly, and I think we saw more of what they really are against Arizona last week. If Cleveland is a top-level team, this should be one that you don't sweat if you're a Browns fan. But Cleveland does not allow you to relax, and I don't trust them with 7 points. I do think they're going to get the win, though. I'll take them on the money line. I'll take the Browns on the money line, and we'll leave it at that. Not going to make you a lot of money on that one, but I just don't have the confidence to go for the points. So Brownies money line. All right. And our next game, we're going to travel up to go visit. We're going to go visit your Vikings in Minnesota, Rob. 1 p.m. CBS, Tennessee Titans. Life does not get easier for the 0-2 Vikings. The Titans come in at 2-0. They are minus 2.5 on the spread, minus 140 on the money line, and the over-under is sitting at 49. I think this might be the clearest total for the week for me. Both of these teams have shown the ability to score points. Tennessee struggled a little bit week 1. Minnesota struggled a little bit week 2 on the offensive side of the ball. However, I do think both these teams can score. I think I like the over in this game. I'm going to stay off. I think Tennessee can win. I'm going to parlay this and take Tennessee on the money line and the over at 49.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you, Nick. Being a Vikings guy, we had the overhaul in the secondary, and week 1 we had to face Aaron Rodgers. Week 2, Philip Rivers and the Colts. Tannehill, who's been tremendous, is coming on last year into this year. Him and that Corey Davis connection has been really, really key. The first 2 weeks. Can that continue? I think it does, especially with the young Vikings secondary. So if you ask me, I like Tennessee to win this game, and give me Tennessee with the points. But don't be surprised if Kirk Cousins has a bounce back game. But once again, the offensive line for Minnesota has just been, horrible over the first 2 weeks. And one person that you don't want to see when your offensive line is struggling is Clowney. And that's who they have to face this week. So I really like Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill to pull this one out with the points.
So you're taking Tennessee at minus 2.5.
Yeah, give me Tennessee with 5 field goal.
All right. And just to really cover what's up with that Minnesota team, we got a young secondary and an offensive line that's not really playing very well right now. I know a lot of people are putting on Cousins. He's the guy with the big money, but that's where you're putting it on that offensive line, the secondary, right?
Yeah, I that's pretty much when I watch all the games. That's what jumps out on me on the film, Nick. Dalvin Cook is Dalvin Cook, so he's going to get his. But once again, in order to move forward, you have to have a balanced attack in, and that's one thing that Minnesota doesn't have on the offense side of the ball. And definitely one of the strong suits used to be the defense, and that seems like it's struggling, especially with the injury to Anthony Barr and Danielle Hunter. So once again, the Vikings are really banged up and struggling right now.
Yeah, tough start to the season too with Green Bay, Indianapolis, Tennessee. Pretty unforgiving start to the schedule for the Vikes. All right.
Yeah. Before we move on, Nick, I just want to read this schedule of games in these quarterbacks. So week 1, the Vikings had Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Week 2, you get Philip Rivers. I mean, granted, it's an older Philip Rivers, but it's still Philip Rivers. So week 3, you get Ryan Tannehill up and coming with the Titans, and then week 4, you get Deshaun Watson and the Texans, and then next week you get Seattle and Russell Wilson, and the week after that you get Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Jesus, can this young Vikings secondary get a break, Nick? I don't think so. They're just going to have to roll with the punches, and it's going to be some growing pains early for them, but hopefully it tough them up and they get better in the second half of the season, Nick.
Sounds like we're a Kirk Cousins injury away from Trevor Lawrence wearing purple next year.
Hey, I will take that. I will be honored to take Trevor Lawrence, and bring him to Skull Nation, Nick. But yeah, this is tough sledding for this Vikings team moving forward with the young secondary, with these star-studded quarterbacks. So it could be a long season for Mike Zimmer out there.
It really shows how fragile the competitive window is for most franchises. For every team not named New England, You got to hit. You got like a 2 to 3 year window with the group of guys, and then you got to go all in to get it. And I feel like Minnesota, they definitely win all in. They definitely tried, but it looks like that window is already closed on what was a pretty good group for the last few years up in Minnesota. So might be time to retool in the offseason for the Vikings already, but we'll see Sunday. Maybe they bounce back. All right, the Raiders opened up the Vegas facility in style, Allegiant Stadium. Looked pretty sweet right off the strip. Definitely planning on making a trip out there. We'll have to go out there and gamble on some games and go watch some Raiders football, Rob. But they traveled cross country to go to face New England and Cam Newton at 1 p.m. on CBS. Man, the Pats have looked good the first couple of weeks. I'm impressed with Cam Newton. That Seattle game was a blast to watch. They're hanging right in there. I mean, New England really – they haven't really missed a beat from last year. And especially considering all the guys that opted out and like what they're missing, I didn't know what to expect from New England other than they got Belichick, they got Cam. Let's see what they can do. And I think the Raiders, they had a nice win at Carolina. They went back and forth. I was pretty shocked to see how bad they ended up whooping up on the Saints that second half. They made Drew Brees look not so good. But going cross country after a big Monday Night Football win, I think New England bounces back. They had a tough loss. I think New England bounces back on this one. Give me the Pats at -6 in this one. -275 money line. Totals at 475 total. Totals at 47.5. I'm going to take just New England at -6.
Yeah, Nick, I think New England bounces back. I really like what Bill Belichick has, him and Josh McDaniels has going up there with Cam Newton at the quarterback position. Once again, the Raiders look really good in that second half against the Saints on Monday Night Football, but that first half, they really kind of struggled, especially that first quarter. So give me the Patriots with the points in this one, Nick.
What'd you think of Darren Waller the other night?
Can you say unstoppable, unguardable? They really had no answer for him. But once again, I think the one thing that makes the New England Patriots so good and Bill Belichick is that he normally takes your best player away. So you can see Bill Belichick either taking Josh Jacobs or Darren Waller away and having someone else beat him. So I can really see that on the defense side of the ball. And we might get a Darren Waller and a Stephon Gilmore matchup. How about that, Nick?
Man, you're definitely right about Belichick being able to just zone in on one guy and absolutely ruin your dreams. But Waller's size is just – it was awesome to watch a couple of those matchups where he would just almost like box out someone to go get the football. I mean, I like the guy's size. I like his speed. Carr looked relatively comfortable, but when you got a running back like Josh Jacobs, it really makes the passing game open up a little bit. So I like Jacobs. I think he just runs with such ferocity. Like you would not want to see that guy in the open field. I like this Raiders team. I like what everyone crushed Gruden a couple of years ago when he came in and traded away all those guys. Khalil Mack in particular said he was giving up on the season. Kind of looking pretty good for them now. Not looking so bad right now for the Raiders. So I like what they're building. Tough matchup going east to play New England though. So I'll take the Pats at -6 as well. All right, let's stay on the East Coast. San Francisco. Well, Rob, they left MetLife Stadium with a bunch of injuries last week, and they blamed the turf at MetLife Stadium for some of them. And guess where they're playing this week? Right back at MetLife Stadium. The 49ers, in a cruel twist of fate, play the Giants again. They're a 4-point favorite this time after just crushing the Jets. -200 on the money line. Total is at 41.5. I don't know what to do with this one yet. I wanted to hear your point of view on this game because I just worry that San Francisco, obviously the Giants, another victim of Sunday's injuries, lost Saquon Barkley. But, man, the 49ers are missing a lot of firepower in this one.
Yeah, not only missing a lot of firepower, but they might miss some more firepower, Nick. I know it was some reports coming out that, Kittle and Jimmy G said, they might opt out to not play this week because of the turf issues. So once again, it's going to be a lot of people down on that 49er side due to injuries. So don't be surprised if the Giants keep it close and pull out the win. Honestly, I think this might be the upset of the day. So give me Giants. Put the points, Nick.
Okay, you're taking the Giants at +4. I don't fault you for that thinking. I mean, they definitely can hang around if it's a low scoring game, I believe, which I think it will be. So I'm going to take the under because I don't have a good sense of what the 49ers are right now. I'm going to take the under at 41.5. I think this is going to be like a 17-14. This is going to be like that Giants Bears game last weekend. I think it's going to be nice and low scoring. So under 41.5. All right. Let's move on to more disappointment along the East Coast here. You got Carson Wentz and the Eagles hosting Burrow and the Bengals. The Eagles are a 5-point favorite, minus 225 money line. Over under is at 46.5. Look, we haven't seen a win from the Bengals in their first two games, but they took a Chargers team that played right with the Chiefs down to the wire. They took a Browns team right down to the wire, who I think the Browns have more talent than the Bengals, but Bengals played right with them. Joe Burrow is going to keep them in games. I don't know what's going on with this Eagles team right now. They really have disappointed me. I thought this was going to be a strong team in the East this year. That comeback, like I said earlier with Washington, I'll chalk that up as a fluke, but I would have liked to see them play a little better in that Rams game instead of falling down 21-6 early and just playing catch up all day. So they almost did. They kind of stuck around it. They showed a little fight. So I'll give them credit here. But Rob, if the Cincinnati Bengals walk into Lincoln Financial and win this game, Philly's season's over at 0-3.
Yeah, not only is it over, but I mean, you might have people calling for, Carson Wentz's head right now. I know they kind of worked Jalen Hurts into the offense last week, especially, from a Wildcat standpoint and at the receiver, sprinkling a little eye candy in there. But for some reason, it seemed like Carson Wentz has been off this year. And I know he might be hearing the grumblings. It's definitely from the Philly fans and definitely from the sports pundits out there. But I think, Philly bounces back and gets the win. I think they don't go 0-3. I think they do get a win. Once again, that first week they didn't have the services of Miles Sanders. You see him come back in week 2 and you see what he can do. So I think Eagles get the win, and Joe Burrow, he plays well, but I think Cincinnati comes up short once again.
So you taking the Eagles on -5 with the points, or you taking the money line?
I'm taking the Eagles on the money line, Nick.
And I'm doing the same. I don't trust them on the points right now, even though I think they are good enough to they should cover. I just don't trust them right now. So I think they desperately need this win. I don't care if it's the last second field goal. Come out of this game with a win somehow. Philly, money line. Houston goes to Pittsburgh, 1 p.m., CBS. Another team with a pretty unforgiving start to their schedule, the Texans. It's looking like 0-3 here, Rob. They go in. Pittsburgh's a 4-point favorite, -200 on the money line. Over-unders at 45. Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. It's almost like Nebraska, except they didn't sue the NFL. Like, Nebraska's complaining about their schedule in the Big Ten right now. Who did Houston piss off to get this kind of schedule right out the gate?
Yeah, it seems like the curse of trading DeAndre Hopkins. That's what it seems like, Nick. I mean, we've seen Deshaun Watson run for his life in his first 2 games, and I think you're going to see it again, especially with that Pittsburgh Steelers front seven. I think T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree is just going to be all over Deshaun Watson, and if he throws it up and he leaves the ball hanging, I can see Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden just having a field day in the secondary. So just give me Pittsburgh with the points in this one, Nick.
I'm on the same thought. I don't know what Houston's offense is quite yet. Haven't gotten a good feel for it in 2 weeks. It seems like they're not great, but then they're good enough with Deshaun Watson where they'll get a late touchdown or two. So it's tough with picking the totals with the Texans right now, because I think they might get a cheap touchdown late because Watson's so good, and if you give him room, he'll just go right down the field. So I'm going to take the Steelers at -4 as well. All right. Another team that's in struggle town, but not because of the schedule. I think they might be that bad. The New York Jets at Indianapolis, 4 o'clock kickoff on CBS. The Colts, 11-point favorites, -620 on the money line. Over-under is at 44. Rob, Sam Darnold in the offense, they just can't get it going. It's been a rough 2 weeks, but maybe they played Buffalo and San Francisco. Those defenses aren't too shabby They're definitely better than what Indianapolis is putting on the field on defense. I was impressed with the Colts' victory over the Vikings last week. They definitely made the Vikings look silly at times. I thought that defense was quite dominant. And just because I know you care about my fantasy team, Kirk Cousins had -5 points against me last week. So that's something to say about the Colts defense.
Yeah, once again, I think the Colts had a great win against Minnesota. Jonathan Taylor really looks really good. I know, when Marlon Mack went down with the Week 1 injury, I know a lot of people in Indianapolis was shaking their heads. But once again, that's why you draft Jonathan Taylor. But on the defense side of the ball, you lose Malik Hooker. One of your ball hawking safeties in the back. But I think the Jets, they have talent, but I don't think they have the team chemistry to put it all together. So I really like the Colts to win this one. I'm not so sure about the Colts winning with the points, but give me the Colts on the money line and the under on this one, Nick.
Well, again, it's Indy -11, -620 on the money line. The total's at 44. I'm gonna go you're gonna go Indy money line. I'm gonna go Jets with the points. I think this is the week the Jets kind of have a little bit of a bounce back. I think, before we go right, usually when we write a team off completely, they end up showing up out of nowhere. Darnold, I still think Darnold's good. I think the offensive line he's been behind isn't awesome. So I think this Colts team, I'm not sure what they are yet. 11 points is a lot to give a team, so I'll take the Jets +11, and maybe they'll keep it close. All right, but again, you didn't like my Kirk Cousins fantasy update, huh? No comment on that.
Yeah, no comment, Nick.
Nobody cares about my fantasy team?
No one cares about your fantasy team.
Okay, I just had to throw that in there and see if you would care. All right. The Chargers playing at SoFi Stadium. Dude, they were close last week, man. You gotta score touchdowns though in the second half. You can't go a whole half and not score a touchdown. I know that sounds stupid, but man, they look so good coming out of the gate, and that defense played very well against Mahomes. Very encouraging stuff there. Carolina, I think their team, they're just showing a little fight. Not a lot going on. I believe McCaffrey's out for this one, correct? Has he got an ankle injury?
Yeah, he's going to be out for this one. So once again, no Christian McCaffrey, the most explosive player that was going to be on the field. I really think Carolina struggles in this one, Nick. So I just don't see Carolina winning this game. And just like you said, that Chargers defense looked really good against Pat Mahomes last week. So give me Chargers with the points in this one. And it looks like it's going to be, the rookie Justin Herbert starting this one.
Yes, it is. And we got Mike Davis stepping in to replace McCaffrey in Carolina. And for those of you Gamecock fans, that's Mike Davis out of the University of South Carolina. All right. Yeah, the Chargers at -6.5 in this one, -280 on the money line. Over, under, the totals at 43.5. You like the Chargers in the points?
Yes.
-6.
Yeah, give me Chargers in the points.
I'm gonna go. I think the Panthers are gonna show a little fight in this one. So I'm gonna go Chargers on the money line on it. I like the Chargers, but I'm gonna go with them on the money line. Carolina played tough against the Raiders. They showed up in the second half, played real well against the Bucs, and I think so they've seen a tough defense last week down in Tampa Bay. I think they showed some good fight after getting dominated for 2.5 quarters. But Rob, the interesting storyline coming out last week, we just got the vague story about Tyrod Taylor having chest pains, and that's why Justin Herbert started. And even Anthony Lynn said, "Well, we plan on going back to Tyrod Taylor." Herbert showed some stuff, but not enough to win the starting job. And then like a day later, we're talking about Herbert taking the job again because apparently the team doctor, while giving Tyrod Taylor a shot for his ribs, a painkiller, went through, missed it, and punctured a lung. You ever heard a story like that?
Yeah, I've never heard a story like that. I know we've heard stories where a player might necessarily got play to play when they shouldn't because they were a little bit more banged up than what was laid on. But I've never seen an instance where the doctor actually calls the injury to worsen, where it causes a punctured lung. Like I've never heard of anything like that, and I was in shock when the story broke. But I think Anthony Lynn, had a good showing from Justin Herbert last week. And if the defense can step up, I think they can kind of manage the rookie moving forward.
Yeah, wild story. Feel bad for Tyrod Taylor there because he was looked to poise the start for this team, and what a bad break for him. I think Tyrod's a guy that he could really have this Chargers team kind of playing a little settled. He played a little settled down, but we definitely saw some flashes from the rookie last week. Definitely had some good drives against a tough Chiefs team. Look forward to seeing him against a rebuilding Panthers. So we'll get to see more Justin Herbert this week. All right, Tampa Bay out of the NFC South, traveling out west to Denver, 425 on Fox. Bucks bounced back last week. They look like the team that a lot of us think they can be. They are a 6-point favorite, minus 280 on the money line, and the total is at 43.5. Robert, I liked what Tampa Bay did on offense last week. I still think they have another gear they haven't hit. That defense is awesome. That defense is great. And Denver played tough last week in Pittsburgh. Really had a nice rally behind Jeff Driscoll. Drew Lock with the shoulder, not expected to play in this one, I believe. And the Bucks need to just string wins together. The Saints showed that they were vulnerable on Monday night. The Bucks every game's important for this division for them. I think they go into Denver. I think they handle their business. But it's always tough to play in Denver, so I'm just gonna go Tampa Bay on the money line. And I think I like the over at 43.5, so I might parlay that. So Tampa Bay money line parlay with the over of 43.5.
Yeah, Nick, I really like the way Tampa played last week. I know Tom Brady didn't look like the Tom Brady of old, and moving forward, I don't think Tom Brady is going to get there where he looks like the Tom Brady of old. I love to see the running game of with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. I think we saw a little bit of it last week, and I think we're going to see more to come. But just like you mentioned, that defense is just looking really, really well. And I don't know if Chris Godwin got cleared to play this week. I know he sat out this past week. But Mike Evans, he got on board with the touchdown. It looks like him and Tom Brady is, staying late at the practice and kind of working together, building that chemistry. So I really like Tampa Bay with the points in this one. I know it, the mile high, the thin air, but once again, no Drew Lock with the shoulder injury, and Cortland Sutton is out for the season. So give me Tampa in this one. I think TB12 and Buccaneers roll.
There are reports that Chris Godwin did pass the concussion test, is expected to play in week 3. So another weapon for Tom Brady out there. So you said you'll take Tampa Bay on
Tampa Bay with the points.
Tampa Bay -6. All right. We're gonna stay out west. Kyler Murray looking awfully good. You see that little high step kick into the end zone on that run?
Yeah, I picked Kyler Murray as a dark horse MVP. Me and my friends have a group chat, Nick, and I pretty much got laughed at the group chat. So I texted a group chat after this past weekend, and I told him, who's laughing now? The addition of DeAndre Hopkins just opens up the field for Kyler Murray so much more. And I think that's why you're seeing the running lanes that's being created for him, because he's a special athlete, but also because of the threat of DeAndre Hopkins down the field. So I think both of them is benefiting from each other. And I really like Arizona to roll in this game, Nick.
Yeah, he looked super impressive in a couple of those runs last week, a week after connecting with DeAndre Hopkins 15 times. So there's no doubt you could see the immediate impact of Hopkins on that offense there. So they're welcoming the Lions out to the desert. They're a 6-point favorite. Arizona is a 6-point favorite, -270 on the money line. Over under totals at 55. I am going to stick with the Cardinals in this one. I thought Detroit came out. They were up 14-3 before getting throttled last week at Green Bay. And I think Detroit's got this gear in them where they could be like they can stick with the Cardinals. So I'm gonna just take Arizona on the money line in this one. You got Arizona in the points?
Give me Arizona with the points. That offense is very explosive, and I think the defense is kind of coming around. So I really like Arizona with the points. I just Detroit just had that horrible loss week one, and I just don't think they can bounce back moving forward. Matthew Stafford seems like he's kind of nicked up and banged up, and he's playing through something. I know they get Kenny Galladay back this week, but I don't think that's going to help that much.
Yeah, I think this Lions team they seem like they're going to be an up and down group. So when I'm cautious about writing them off at any point. All right, Dallas, you were getting crushed last week against Atlanta, a team that Seattle crushed in week one. Dallas goes up to Seattle after a huge comeback, historic win against Atlanta. Still can't get over that onside kick. Dallas is a 5-point dog in this one. Seattle's minus 225 on the money line, and the total is at 56. Man, that total jumps out at me right away, Rob. These two offenses, they've been explosive. I thought that I picked that Patriots Seahawks game last week to be the under, and man, was I wrong on that game. So you've seen two very explosive outputs from Seattle this year. Dallas defense seems like they could give up quite a few points. That offense, they can strike two at any given time. I'm going to take the over at 56.
I mean, 56. That seems like a lot, but not for these two teams, Nick, coming in. Just like you said, two explosive offense. We've seen what Russell Wilson has done. He's looking like a strong leader for the MVP trophy. Him and Aaron Rodgers. 1A, 1B. But once again, we've seen the Cowboys offense. They struggle in week one against the Rams, but they put up a whole bunch of points against that struggling Falcons defense. And I really think, this is going to come down to who plays better at the quarterback position. And I give Russell Wilson a nod. So I really like Seattle to get the win. I think, the Cowboys wasted a lot of energy in that comeback victory last week against the Falcons, and I think they come out flat, and I think, Seattle just jumps on them early, and, they ride them out with the victory. So give me Seattle in this one, Nick, on the money line.
Seattle on the money line for Rob, and he is starting a campaign for MVP for every NFC West quarterback, apparently. All right, Green Bay. Another MVP candidate, Aaron Rodgers, goes to New Orleans. 8:20 p.m. NBC, Sunday Night Football. Big game for the Saints, Rob. That was pretty disappointing performance on Monday night. I know it's a new building for the Raiders, but you don't have any fans in it. Doesn't mean they're not playing with a little extra juice. Doesn't mean you didn't travel across the country. Fine. New Orleans in their home stadium plays very well with or without fans. They played very well against Tampa. The Saints are -3 on the spread, -165 on the money line, and the over-under is at 52.5. Okay, I'm going to take the Packers at +3 because I really like what they have done. You've been a big Green Bay guy. I've kind of just been listening to your sales pitch for the Packers the last couple of weeks. It's looked awfully good. I'm worried officially about Drew Brees after his first two performances. Am I overreacting?
I think it's a little early, especially when you're Drew Brees and you've had the caliber of the career that he's had to this point. So I think we have to give him time. I know last week he was playing with no Michael Thomas, so and he only hooked up with Emmanuel Sanders one time. I think Emmanuel Sanders had one reception that whole game. So Drew Brees is still kind of building that chemistry with his weapons outside of Michael Thomas. But one constant has been Alvin Kamara. He got the big contract and he's producing so far. And I think this matchup can come down to, if Marshawn Lattimore can kind of slow down Devontae Adams. I know Devontae Adams has kind of been slowed down with a hamstring injury, so it's up in question if he would even play. But if he does, and if Marshawn Lattimore can win that match, I think Saints pull out the win. So give me Saints on the money line in this one, Nick.
Okay, so you like the Saints to bounce back. All right. So no worries about Breeze so far. You're totally fine with what you saw in that Vegas game?
It's a little early. Once again, just like you said, I know, opening opening stadium for the Vegas Raiders, coming out with a lot of juice. No Michael Thomas, chemistry issues with your other receivers. That was a game that the defense kind of had to step up, but I think the defense kind of let Drew Brees down this past Monday night. So I think the defense kind of kicks it back in gear and they pull out and they help Drew Brees with the win against Green Bay.
All right, let's go to Monday Night Football. Kansas City at Baltimore. I think we thought this was going to be a potential AFC Championship matchup before the Titans derailed that last year. 8:15 Monday night on ESPN. The Ravens are a 3-point favorite over the Super Bowl champs, minus 180 on the money line. The over-unders at 54. Rob, that total is tempting, man. That total is tempting. I think this game could definitely go either way. I think I'm leaning toward the Chiefs on this one, though. I think people might be down on them based on what they saw at LA last week. But the Ravens have played well. They're scoring lots of points still. I think that offense is going to be in high gear. If you're not sure about who to take on in this one, I would definitely just play the over at 54.
Yeah, the over seems like it's the safe bet, Nick. But once again, I really think this Baltimore Raven team is on a mission, and I think Lamar Jackson is going to actually have a little bit more juice for this one. Definitely with the matchup of him and Pat Mahomes. I think he's really going to get up for this one, and his team is going to support him. And once again, we know that Kansas City Chiefs defense struggles a little bit. So, I mean, just like you said, the safe bet is probably going to be the over because it might be a shootout. But I'm going to give the edge to the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. I think they're the more complete team. They're playing so well together. It seems like they haven't missed a beat. I mean, granted, just like you said earlier, we thought this was going to be the AFC Championship matchup, but once again, I think the Ravens is going to take this game personally and use it like their Super Bowl, and they're going to come out and they're going to get the victory. So give me the Ravens on the money line, Nick.
Ravens on the money line. All right. That's this weekend's games behind us. We got them all picked out. Rob, you got any final thoughts on the NFL before we move on to the final segment? Did you know?
Yeah, once again, just going back to the story about Tyrod Taylor, your heart just goes out to him, and you hope he's okay. But once again, I've never heard a story like that, Nick. I'm not sure if you have, but just hearing that news story earlier, that was kind of horrible if you're a Chargers fan, because you have Tyrod Taylor goes down with this freak accident injury, and then you have Derwin James go down. It just seems like every year, a big time player on the Chargers teams go down. So your heart just goes out to that organization and a franchise. But also, I just want to, Gale Sayers, he recently passed away. So we at American Football Stories, we want to reach out to his family, and how great Gale was as a player. But if you're a Bears fan, you got to watch Gale Sayers and Walter Payton. How cool is that, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, that's two all-time backs right there. And, I mean, Gale Sayers, every highlight you see of him, he just looks like the modern-day football player playing back in his time.
Yeah, so, it seems like he can play in any generation. I mean, he was definitely a talent, way beyond his years. So just rest easy to Gale Sayers, and you pray for his family. And big shout out to Tyrod Taylor. Hopes he bounced back with that freak accident injury, man. So that's about it for me, Nick.
All right, let's wrap it up for this week, and we'll go to the Did You Know. All right, Rob, it's your turn to get on the Did You Know hot seat this week. And our Did You Know question of the week, brought to you by Coach Paint, is which team has played in more playoff games since the 2000 season, meaning 2000 and beyond, not 1999, okay? So not like, the playoffs are always in the following year, so 99 plays in the playoff games in the year 2000. Which team has played in more playoff games since the 2000 season? The Jacksonville Jaguars or the Miami Dolphins? Good question in honor of our Thursday night game this week. So we will cut for commercial, and we'll come right back. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. CoachMate offers the ability to clearly telestrate video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game today with CoachMate. Okay, Rob, we're back, and I want to know which team has played in more playoff games since the 2000 season, the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Miami Dolphins?
Wow. I mean, just off the top of my head, Nick, I'm going to go with your favorite team in the Jacksonville Jaguars. I just remember them in the playoffs more recently than I do the Dolphins. So I'm going to go with Jacksonville with this question.
Ding, 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 ding. You're on the board. I gave you a couple tough ones, so I gave you a 50-50 here just to be nice this week, Rob. You needed to get back on the board here. But, yeah, the Jaguars have played 6. The Dolphins have played 5 since the year 2000. And, again, and I say that because the Jaguars were the number 1 seed in the 99 playoffs, which the games were played in 2000. And that was, of course, the Jaguars and Dolphins did play in that playoffs. Dan Marino's final game was in Jacksonville. Every Jaguars fan remembers that game. 62-7 beatdown with Dan Marino and Jimmy Johnson. Marino retired after that one. But, yeah, the Jags, they had only played in 3 playoff games until 2017. And then, of course, they made the run to the AFC title game in 2017 where they eventually lost to the Patriots. # Miles Jack wasn't down. And the Dolphins, they played 2 games in the 2000 playoffs. And they made the playoffs in 2002, or the 2001 season, 2008 season, and as recently as the 2016 season when Tannehill got injured late and they lost to the Steelers in Miami, if you remember that playoff game. So, Rob, feeling generous this week. Based on what I just shared with you, who was the last quarterback that the Dolphins defeated in the playoffs? And I'll give you the year. Their last win in the playoffs was in December of 2000.
Wow. Last quarterback the Dolphins defeated. Ooh, that's a pretty tough one, Nick. Wow. I don't
It's
know.
a name that everybody knows.
Oh wow. I don't. I kind of want to go out on a limb, but I really don't.
You got nothing to lose. It's a bonus question.
Something's telling me, wow. I don't know. Can I phone a friend on this one, Nick?
No, you don't have any friends, dude.
Wow, I'm pretty stumped. The last team that the Dolphins, the last quarterback the Dolphins beat in the playoffs, and you said it was in the 2000s.
Yeah, it was in the 2000 playoffs. It was the wild card round. It was a game at home. The Dolphins won 23-17 in overtime.
Yeah, I'm stumped on this one, Nick. You're gonna have to give me a hand. You're gonna have to give me a,
It's a quarterback that everybody knows. Your mom would know him. Your girlfriend would know him. Everybody would know this quarterback.
Could it be TB12 and Tom Brady?
Is that your final answer?
I think that's going to be my final answer.
You were close. It was the other quarterback that dominated our generation coming up. Peyton Manning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Peyton Manning and the Colts. Edgerrin James, they went down to Miami. They lost in the wild card round to the Dolphins. 23-17 on December 30th, 2000. I remember that game as soon as I flipped it on YouTube. I saw the highlights. Like, oh yeah, I remember this game. I totally forgot Peyton Manning ever lost to the Dolphins in the playoffs.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't think that, Peyton or Tom will lose to the Dolphins, but yeah, I mean, hey, it happens. But
it happens.
wow, yeah, Great question there, Nick. Great question.
All right. Well, you got on the board, man. You got on the board. I think I want to say, does that tie you up? Does that tie things up with us on the totals here?
I think we should be tied up on that. I think you have to, look at those numbers because I think we're 2-2.
We're tied up. We're 2-2. We're 2
Yeah.
and 2 now. Okay, so we're 2 and 2. All right, good deal. Yeah, we could do a tough question, but if you do a tough question, you got to follow it up with a reasonable question on that. All right, Rob, you got anything else you want to add for this episode? You ready to read us out?
Ready to read us out. Do you have anything else for the audience, Nick?
I'm good to go.
All right. Well, with that being said, I would just like to thanks everyone for listening to American Football Stories. Once again, we are powered by Coach Paint. Please beef up your scouting clips with Coach Paint, and please follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, and rate us 5 stars, and tune in to next episode.